The Vandy offense looks for a reset versus Georgia Tech, and Diego Claus delivers a big gift for the offense on this Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Merry Christmas and welcome to the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network on this Christmas Eve. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So as Vandy arrives in Birmingham for all the bowl festivities, they must stay focused on stopping Haynes King and the Yellow Jacket offense. And in the wake of the Pavia ruling, Vandy's offense got a welcome surprise as they look for a reset versus Georgia Tech. So here's the thing. This offense struggled. And I say that very slowly because I want to emphasize the word struggle, okay? They hadn't had a 30-point game or 100-yard receiver or rusher over 70 yards since, I guess, 7 games. So I think it was after the Alabama upset, they hadn't had that kind of offensive production, which I think a lot of it can just be attributed to the roster just became more and more banged up. The teams they were facing became a lot more athletic up front. You know, you had super talented front sevens like Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. You know, 5 of those games were against extremely talented front sevens. Kentucky's was good in its own right. They held their own. Not good enough, but they held their own. And every game became a very physical, black and blue SEC slugfest. And Vandy's not really used to being in those games. Usually their MO had been prior to this season had been to fold up shop and, midway through the second quarter, and they never really took these beatings. It was always teams just kind of cruising to these wins and really just kind of leaving Vandy to pick up the pieces going, what the heck just happened? But I left out LSU, by the way. But they were, the last 7 games, all 7 of these front sevens were outstanding and super athletic and had a really good game plan against Vanderbilt. So here's the thing, though. They had a 3-game losing streak. They averaged 15 points per game. And a lot of it was just because Vandy couldn't get anything going in the run game. And then, of course, they've never been able to get much going in the pass game. They've flashed. They've shown what they're capable of. And you've seen what they've can build, but they just hadn't been able to put it all together between protection, deep ball accuracy, and receivers not getting separation. They just couldn't put it together consistently at all. And so now that they're a little bit more healthy, Diego Pavia is back, and they know that they can start kind of building for next year. And I think they've got to look for some answers. I think this is a perfect opportunity. And I know you want to get that winning record. I know 7-6 sounds a lot better than 6-7. But I think it's going to be, and hopefully over these 3 bye periods, this 3-week bye period since the end of the season and the bowl game, I'm hoping they've worked on building a passing game, trying to find what they have on this roster. Now, I think some of these guys, early enrollees, are coming in, but they've got some help coming in at the wide receiver position. They just got to figure out what to do with it. It's like, I use this analogy on SEC Squad, which we'll drop later on today on this Christmas Eve edition. But I use this analogy when talking about what Vandy needs to work on, what they need to accomplish next season. I use the analogy of you buy your kid this gift, and what usually it says some assembly required, and you're like, oh, this won't be too bad. This will be pretty good. We've got capable receivers. We got a veteran quarterback. We've got some pieces on the offensive line. How hard could it be? And early on, you're like, you're cruising through page 1, page 2, page 3 of the instruction booklet, and the instruction booklet's about that thick. And you're cruising through the instructions, and you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. This is going pretty well. Like, we're doing pretty well. And then you reach that stumbling point, which was the Georgia State game, and you're like cussing and screaming, and you're like, I can't figure out this step, and like it's really frustrating. And then you almost get it, and then boom, you're cruising through, and then all of a sudden you get to like page 8, 9, and 10, like the back of the book, and you're, and it just becomes, the difficulty just increases tenfold. You don't know what parts are what. It's not drilled well. There's missing things. Like you can't quite get the good angle to tighten the bolts down. Like you get some distractions. Your screwdriver breaks. All these things happen, and you kind of fight through, and you put it together, but it doesn't work as well as you want it to. It still looks good, and you still accomplish the goal. But if you could have it to do all over again, you would strip it down, make sure you had all the parts right, make sure you read the instruction manual right, make sure you implemented the things correctly. Same thing with this offense, right? You lose parts here or there, you spill coffee on the page, and all of a sudden, your run game works really well early on. You hit a few road bumps, hit a few roadblocks, teams start to kind of figure out a little bit. You go a little bit more conservative as you're trying to figure it out. Your receivers really just aren't getting separation. You can't protect on a consistent basis because you're going against, some elite edge guys, especially with South Carolina. Texas had a really, really nice defensive line, one of the tops in the country, which is the reason why they're where they are in the playoff. And as they advance, Vandy should feel even better about that game because they gave Texas their best shot. I mean, they were landing haymakers. It looked like the Hagler-Hearns boxing match. Someone had to lose. Unfortunately, it was Vandy, but they kept delivering shot after shot after shot. They kept taking shot after shot after shot. So it's one of those things where this offense just needs that reset. They need to figure out how to build, and they might have to take some things apart in the bowl game, right? They might have to get down and see, okay, well, this piece wasn't the right piece. I was trying to fit it. I was trying to fit it in, but it's not the right piece. So we have to put that piece back in the box and try another piece, right? That's Tristan Brown. That's Joseph McVay. That's, seeing what you can do with Richie Hoskins on a more consistent basis. I think unless he's gone, he might be out of eligibility. So they might not burn a whole lot of time. See what you got in some of these other transfer guys that didn't play, like Darian Wiley. And just see what is there, because this is your chance to do so. And if you're going to be successful with that schedule next year, because if you look at this schedule, and I still have it, right? If you look at this schedule, man, that's a brutal schedule. You get a nice little warm up, but like by September, I can't see that. I think that's 6th. By September 6th, you better have it figured out. When you travel to Blacksburg, right? You better have some options. Now, Trent Hudson's coming in the portal. Chance Fitzgerald is coming in the portal. You have some other receivers that are entering, like Cameron Dixon, LeBron Hill, and then the two guys I just mentioned, Joseph McVay, who caught a huge touchdown against Missouri, and of course Tristan Brown, who had some nice action against against Alcorn State and a little bit against Ball State. So, you have some guys, you have some options. Caleb Burnett can be a good slot guy. Junior Sherrill's coming back. I don't know about Skinner. I think Skinner's done. I'm pretty sure. So they've got to have some answers. They've got to figure out some semblance of a pass game. This is their chance to do it. Now, what I'd love to see happen in this game, now that the Diego Pavia stuff is behind you, he's coming back, I'd like to see some more chemistry being built. I'd like you to find a wide receiver. I'd like you to find wide receiver 1 at some point in this. I'd like you to find a guy that's like, okay, I know we can rely on him. He's going to get separation. He is a dog, right? We want to find that. We want to get back to our identity. Tim Beck needs to shifts, motions, get back to what made Vanderbilt good on offense. Moving guys around, creating different looks to run the same play, putting guys in conflict, being super aggressive, because I think they were protecting their defense. They knew that they didn't have the depth pieces. They knew that they had to burn as much clock as possible, and they had to milk it as best they could. So why not be conservative? And it ended up just causing more 3-and-outs. It ended up causing more harm than good as far as keeping the offense on the field instead of just being super aggressive. And when I say super aggressive, I'm not talking about up tempo, snap the ball every 10 seconds, like hurry, sense of urgency type stuff. I wish they had a little more urgency, but they don't have to go at like a breakneck speed. But I would love to see their concepts be a little bit more aggressive in the fact of, hey, we want to pick on you, and we're going to do what we can to isolate you, whoever that you is. And it could change play to play. It could be the defensive tackle on a midline. It could be the edge guy on a triple option. It could be the weak side inside backer on an RPO. It could be a hyper aggressive safety. It could be a corner that's pressed down on Joseph McVay, hits him with a double move, and off we go. Like, you got to figure out who you want to attack, figure out a way to get them in space and attack them. Figure out a way to create that space for yourself, which is something they didn't do down the stretch of the season as well as they did early on for whatever reason. There's probably a million reasons. I'm not there. I'm not there in the meeting rooms. So I don't know exactly what the goals were, what the exact game plans were, but I think it was just, hey, let's do everything we can to protect our defense, because that's our calling card right now, because everybody's banged up. We don't have a ton of depth. That's going to change. I don't know if you've seen these portal halls. It's only going to continue. But this depth, this whole issue of depth is going to start to change. They're going to have a little bit more depth. So when guys get banged up, they've got a better strength and conditioning program. So guys aren't going to get as banged up as they usually do. So it's going to be the excuses are going to start to fall by the wayside, and you're going to really see just how the makeup of this team. But just stay aggressive. Just come out, attack, right? There is no next game until August 30th, right? There is no football until you start spring practice, probably sometime beginning of March or late February, beginning of March, somewhere in that range. So this is a time to really just kind of, throw the kitchen sink at them, be aggressive, and let's roll, right? Lots of pre-snap movement, lots of guys, lots of, just aggressive. Find who you want to attack, be decisive, and attack. That's what I'd like to see. But this is going to be a good chance for a reset at all of that, and trying to find a young wide receiver to make a statement, or a wide receiver to make a statement, because that's what they severely lacked last season. So there's a nice little surprise. It might as well be another portal edition, because you were banking on this dude being gone. Now he's back. I'll tell you who that is next. All right, this Christmas Eve, actually Christmas Day, the NFL playoffs are almost here. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets for your first $5 bet wins, right? There's so many ways for you to pick up a W. There's 2 games on Christmas Day. The Steelers, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Texans, they're all playing on Christmas Day. So you have chances to win a bunch of stuff. Lamar Jackson, he likes to throw a bunch of touchdowns. I think George Pickens is supposed to be back, so I'm sure there's some prop bets on him. Derrick Henry, all of that. You can bet on anytime touchdowns. You can bet player props. You can bet point spreads, over and unders, money lines. You can bet alternate spreads. There's a million things you can take your $5 bet and win on, so that you can get your $250 in bonus bets. So this is a perfect opportunity to visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also, if you are looking for some relaxation, here's a perfect Christmas gift on this Christmas Eve. If you need something, if you're listening to this, it's like 9 a.m., you may want to check. Hopefully the joint's open. You could do this online. Go to the Joint Chiropractic, buy your spouse, your husband or your wife, whoever happens to be listening, buy them you can buy them a monthly membership, and it can be they have different plans. They have a $29 initial visit and adjustment. They have 6 visit packages. They have a monthly wellness plan. They have single visits. You can get them whatever you want to do. You can get them gift cards, whatever. There's 900 locations nationwide. There's a ton of health benefits that you can get, and it is outstanding, man. The Joint Chiropractic. I go to the one in Bellevue. That's been the best for me. I can't wait to go back, especially after all this holiday stress and hustle and bustle and getting parties and food and all that stuff ready to roll. This is a perfect opportunity for you to kind of reset and get your body right. The Joint Chiropractic. Get your health in order. You will not regret it. Go visit the one nearest you. If you're in Bellevue or close to Bellevue, go visit that one. But otherwise, visit any one of them nationwide, wherever you're listening from. There's something near you that you can go see. The Joint Chiropractic. It's worth it. Trust me. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is the place to go. And if you need an additional listen, in addition to that, let's see how many times I can say addition. If you need another listen after Locked On SEC, Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job. We all get together and we squad it up. That was just going to be a football thing. It went really, really well, and it's going to become a weekly thing the whole year. So I'm excited about that. Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. If you want really good comprehensive coverage of a team that you may or may not, you may have a relative that's an Ole Miss fan. You may want to keep up just so you can have those conversations with your cousin or your uncle or your aunt who wants to be in the know, who is a Rebel fan. Stephen Willis is the place to go. Locked on Ole Miss. So be sure to check that out. But anyway, on this Christmas Eve edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, I want to talk about one of the biggest gifts, pun intended, that Vandy football could get underneath the tree. And Diego Claus has delivered that. And the reason why I say Diego Claus is because it's a direct result of what he just went through and fought for that extra year. Now, the NCAA has said JUCO don't count. And I think they're retroactively, I can't remember how far back they're going. I don't really want to look that up. But I can tell you this much. It's going to affect Stephen Hubbard, and in a good way. Now he's coming back, and he's getting that extra year because of Diego Pavia. Now, I got a lot of flack on the squad show because people think it's going to ruin JUCO football, and it's going to have this ripple effect that I just don't think it's going to have. Not anymore. It's not going to affect anything any more than the transfer portal NIL is, right? I think it's going to make it to where I think it'll probably it'll affect the G5 schools because they have been previously getting those partial qualifiers. Like, let's say, somebody doesn't have the ACT score coming out of high school. They end up going to, say, FIU because FIU will take a partial qualifier. Well, instead of FIU getting that guy, he may elect to go to East Mississippi, JUCO. Or he may elect to go to Independence, or he may elect to go to Laney out in California. Like, he's going to get his prep year and sign. And honestly, I just don't think that's going to affect anything, because if the guy can play, he's going to portal out of you. He's going to portal out of your program within a year anyway, and he's going to end up at a North Carolina or Colorado or Alabama or wherever, major P4 school anyway. So you're not really going to have that dude. So you just need to, if that dude's going to play, it's going to just change things a little bit, but FIU is going to get guys that are going to portal in from FCS, or they're going to get guys there's plenty of the portal with this new roster ruling. The portal is about to triple in the amount of players that's going to be. It's going to be a never ending cycle. There's always going to be players available, whether it's through transfer, there's a lot of junior colleges that you can pick from if you're if you're an FCS school, if you're a D2 school, if you are. I mean, there's a lot of guys that aren't even going to get offered anything that you're going to be able to get out of high school. There's going to be portal guys that get bumped from like a Purdue that ends up at FIU because they think they can go to Michigan and they just don't. And so like the whole ripple effect of this thing is not really going to be that big of a deal. So I don't really know why people are all up in arms about it. I think JUCO from the jump should have not have counted. I think you should have been able. I think JUCO should be, I don't know about the whole 2-year thing. I think that might be a little much, but it's not going to count, and I don't have any problem with that. Whether or not Diego Pavia was, it could have been Ben Johnson from Cal that could have fought the NCAA on this and made the ruling. Like, it could have been anybody. I would have had no problem with it, whoever it was. I think it's good. I think it's good for these partial qualifiers, these guys that need that junior college prep work to be able to get themselves a chance at NIL, to be able to give themselves a chance at proper development for the NFL, depending on what route they take. So it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it goes. They've got to get the transfer portal under control because it's getting crazy. And this whole notion of guys transferring in the middle, I think they need to figure out a window to where guys can portal in and out of, and it not affect the playoff or the bowl games, or I don't know. It's somebody that's going to get paid way more than me to figure this out and needs to figure this out, because I think it's a little ridiculous. I like the idea of the portal. I just think it just needs a little bit of guardrails, or it's going to just kind of go all over the place. But anyway, I'm getting away from my original point here. And the point of this is, Vandy, you might as well call this a portal edition, because Steve Hubbard was supposed to be gone, and now he's not. He's going to be the left tackle for the bowl game, so he's going to get his chance to prove himself as the left tackle, which I think is the quick side, maybe. If they're still doing quick and strong, I'm not even sure if they're still doing that, but he's going to play tackle instead of guard for the bowl game, so he's going to get his chance to prove himself there. But I love this because he's a guy that's now been in the system for a while. He's performed extremely well within this system. He's a guy that is going to be heavily relied on throughout this whole process. He's going to be mentoring these new transfers, these the couple of freshmen they brought in from last year's class, and some of the other portal guys that were, that didn't play as much. He's going to be, and there's going to be more offensive linemen coming in. So this is going to be great for Coach Klenakis in that group, because you get another starter coming back, right? Stephen Lasoya just declares for the NFL draft. That, not surprised there. I think he'll get picked somewhere in like the 4th, 5th round, because centers don't get picked very high, but I think he will do well because he's a smart guy, gritty guy. He knows what's going on. I think he can play center in the league and be very, very successful because he's a really good communicator. And the only reason he bumped over to play guard is because Castillo was not doing well at guard because he's big and he can't move, and center requires less movement than guard. So it was kind of out of necessity. But, Lasoya probably will be a center in the league if I had to guess, and I think he'll fit in really well. So this is a really good thing for this offensive line to get Hubbard back. It's like a portal edition that is eligible to play in the bowl game, which is amazing. So big deal there. Love that. But, this defense is going to have its hands full as well, trying to shut down Haynes King. But again, like I said, in the very first chance I got to talk about Georgia Tech, Vandy just needs to look in the mirror as far as game prep against this offense. I'll tell you what that means next. Hey, what time is it? It's game time. That's right. Game time's focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. And it's the perfect gift. Again, here's another thing. If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas Eve gift, right? They have this new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff, so it shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So I'm sure there's a ton of things out there. There's things in the future that you can pick up on, all that stuff. But like I said, Gametime Picks makes curation even easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have all-in pricing, which means toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, my favorite feature. You get a panoramic view from this seat in the app before you buy. So like if you're going to a Yankees game, you better not get an obstructed view seat if you're using Gametime, because they show you the seat. So you'll know if there's a big steel beam in front of you, you either are dumb or you don't care in that regard. So the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Merry Christmas and welcome back. Happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Thanks for celebrating Locked On Vandy and making us your first listen each and every day. I appreciate that. No doubt in my mind. So as this defense looks to shut down Georgia Tech's offense as we wrap up the show, they're going to have their hands full. But what I said before I talked to you about Gametime was that all they need to do is look in the mirror. And when I say that, I mean to say that Georgia Tech's offense is basically Vanderbilt, except slightly different. It's like looking in a mirror at yourself, but you're wearing different clothes. And they just have a different way of getting about it. But they have all the same goals as Vanderbilt. They want to control the clock. They want to be physical with the run game. They want to – the only thing that's different is that they have more of a presence down the field vertically. Malik Rutherford's coming back for them. He was in the portal. Now he's not in the portal, and he's going to be back on the field for Georgia Tech. He decided that Coach Faulkner maybe he was scared that Coach Faulkner was going somewhere, and I don't know. That still could be the case because college football is weird like that, but it definitely doesn't appear that way because a lot of the big opportunities that he probably would leave for are done. So I think that's very telling that Malik Rutherford said, you know what, this whole portal thing, it's not for me. I'm going back to Georgia Tech, right? So they're going to be a handful. They're very, very well-versed vertically. Haynes King is a great runner. They have a really good design quarterback run scheme. They spread you out. They put guys in conflict to where they have to make tackles in space, and they really test that ability, and they really test your pursuit. They get you on the run. They do a good job of that. So they just keep you on the move. If you want to know an offense that has a vertical passing game that attacks downhill, they have a vertical passing game, but it's like they don't quite use it until they have to, right? If they could, they would beat you with run game and RPOs all the way down the field. But of course, in order to survive in college football, you do have to take shots down the field. And they know that. And they're pretty good at that. And they're pretty good at disguising it. They're pretty good at finding out which guy they're going to pick on deep. And they do a good job of picking on that guy deep, right? So it'll be, again, the game plan is this. The game plan is simple. Throw bodies at them, shut down the run lanes, be able to tackle in space, constrict that space, be careful vertically over the top. Don't give them too much cushion because they'll just nickel and dime you to death down the field and miss a tackle and they're gone. So it's going to be a delicate balancing act of how much cushion do we give them versus, okay, we're gonna close this thing down and come after your quarterback and force him to make a quick throw before he's ready type scenario if they're going to go vertical. Or you're just going to say, you know what, you can't beat me vertical. Why don't you try? And that's going to be the decision that Clark Lee is going to have to make. And I think if he's going to push this defense forward, the more depth he gets, I think he will. And you'll see a lot more of what you saw at Notre Dame, because at Notre Dame, he had the pieces. He had the guys to be able to do that, to be able to be hyper aggressive defensively and come after you and mix up looks on the back end. And he had guys. He had depth, and he had guys he could rotate in. This year, he did not. He didn't quite have that depth, and he wasn't able to do everything he needed to do because guys were beat up and they were relying on guys they shouldn't have been relying on. And it's just one of those things where he did the best he could with what he had, ran out of gas down the stretch, and here we are. So I think he has a chance to kind of rejuvenate that. He's got some pieces coming in. I think he's got some more pieces on the hook. I think he's got more lures in the water, so to speak. And this defense is going to look totally different next year. I think it's going to be a lot more aggressive. And I think you're going to see step one of that in this bowl game on Friday against Georgia Tech. So, shout out to the basketball team. I can't give them enough shout outs. Can't wait for conference play for that. And also make sure tonight you watch Christmas Vacation. That's one of my favorite traditions on Christmas Eve, is to watch Christmas Vacation. So with that being said, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. However you celebrate this holiday season, make sure you do so safely. Make sure you do so in the company of really good family. Make sure you get plenty to eat. Make sure you spread joy this time of year, because we definitely need it. So I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoy the show. I will be back with you Thursday as I peep the schedule. I'll be back with you Thursday for a regular show, Friday for a regular show, giving you keys to the game and, maybe pick a few bowl games. And then Friday, plan to do a post-game wrap-up. It won't be immediately after the game, but it will be shortly there later on that evening probably. So I'll tweet out details on that. So that being said, anchor down, behave yourselves. Peace.